Hey, welcome back. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Flashpoints, the wars that shaped us. A show where we explore the conflicts and disasters that change societies, often in ways we never expect. Today, I want you to picture something with me. It's a warm winter day in Boston, January 15th, 1919. You're in a bustling North End neighborhood, a mix of tenement houses, playgrounds, and the clatter of the elevated railway. And right in the middle of it all, there's a massive tank, 50 feet tall and 90 feet wide, filled to the brim with 2.3 million gallons of molasses. It's a peculiar sight. Now, imagine that tank just gives way. What follows isn't a slow leak. It's a wave. A 15-foot-high, 160-foot-wide wave of thick, sticky, amber syrup moving at 35 miles per hour. It demolishes buildings, crushes the firehouse, tears the L train right off its tracks, and engulfs everything in its path. This is the story of the Great Boston Molasses Flood, and it's about so much more than a bizarre accident. It's a flashpoint where engineering, immigration, corporate greed, and a changing America all collided, with deadly, sticky consequences. So, why was there a tank holding a small ocean's worth of molasses in a residential Boston neighborhood? To understand that, we have to talk about fermentation. And no, not for baking. By 1919, molasses was big business, a key raw material for industrial alcohol, which was crucial for munitions manufacturing. We'd just come out of the First World War, and the demand was staggering. The Purity Distilling Company, owned by the United States Industrial Alcohol Company, needed a storage hub in Boston's harbor to feed its distillery in Cambridge. The North End, a working-class immigrant neighborhood, mostly Italian and Irish, was cheap and convenient. So, in 1915, they built this colossal tank right on Commercial Street. And from the very beginning, it was trouble. It groaned. It leaked. Kids from the tenements would bring jars and scoop up the sweet syrup seeping from its seams. Locals complained about the constant, eerie noises it made. The company's response? They painted it brown to hide the leaks. They ignored the warnings. They even sent their own accountant, not an engineer, to inspect it when concerns were raised. He did nothing. The tank was a ticking time bomb, and the neighborhood knew it. But the voices of immigrant families didn't carry the same weight as a powerful corporation's bottom line. Then came that unusually warm January afternoon. The temperature had jumped from freezing to over 40 degrees Fahrenheit. The molasses inside, which had been chilled, began to ferment rapidly, producing carbon dioxide and increasing the pressure. At the same time, the sudden warming likely caused the cold, brittle steel to become even more stressed. At about 12:30 p.m., the rivets shot from the tank like machine gun fire. And then, with a sound witnesses described as a deep rumble, like grinding metal, the tank exploded. The force was immense. The wave wasn't just liquid, it was a semi-solid, viscous mass. It had the weight and destructive power of a freight train. The Boston Post reported that people and animals were caught in it, like flies on flypaper. Buildings were swept off their foundations. A truck was picked up and thrown into the harbor. 21 people were killed. Men, women, children. Over 150 were injured. The cleanup was a nightmare. Rescuers waded through syrup up to their waists. It coated everything, hardening into a grotesque shell. The harbor stayed brown for months. The city smelled of molasses for a year. They say on hot summer days in the North End, decades later, the smell would still creep out of the sidewalks. In the aftermath, a monumental legal battle began. It became one of the first major class action lawsuits in Massachusetts history. Over 100 lawsuits were filed against United States Industrial Alcohol. The company's defense? They didn't blame the shoddy construction or their own negligence. No, they claimed it was sabotage. Anarchists, they said, had bombed the tank to disrupt industry. This was the Red Scare era, and fear was a potent weapon. But the evidence told a different story. A pioneering engineer named Arthur D. Little conducted experiments, showing how the poor construction and metal fatigue led to the disaster. The investigation revealed the tank had never been properly filled with water to test it, that it used thinner steel than specified, and that the company willfully ignored the glaring dangers. The trial lasted 6 years. In the end, the court found United States Industrial Alcohol entirely liable. They were ordered to pay about $600,000 in damages. That's nearly $10 million today. But more importantly, The verdict sent a shockwave through American industry. It established that corporations had a responsibility to ensure their structures were safe, not just for their workers, but for the public. It gave weight to the need for expert oversight and rigorous engineering standards. This disaster directly influenced the creation of stricter building codes and the requirement for professional engineering sign-offs on major projects. The flood of molasses led to a flood of regulation. There's a personal reflection I have here, as an engineer and an immigrant. Standing in New York City, looking at the infrastructure around us, it's easy to take it for granted. We trust that the bridges won't fall, that the tanks won't burst. But that trust is hard-earned. It was paid for in tragedies like this one, often in neighborhoods where people had the least power to protest. The North End residents knew that tank was a monster. Their truth was dismissed until the monster broke free. It reminds me that engineering is never just about math and physics. It's a social contract. It's about who we listen to, whose safety we prioritize, and the ethical weight of the things we build. That tank was a symbol of pure utility, of profit over people. Its failure was a brutal, sticky correction to that mindset. The Great Boston Molasses Flood faded from popular memory as a quirky, almost comical historical footnote. But it wasn't. It was a profound tragedy and a turning point. It showed the devastating cost of cutting corners and ignoring community voices. It proved that accountability could be won, even against the most powerful interests. And it left a literal and metaphorical imprint on a city. So the next time you sweeten your coffee, or read about a new building code, or walk through a neighborhood that's seen better days, remember that wave. Remember that sometimes progress and safety are forged in the most unexpected and stickiest of disasters. Thanks for listening. If this story shifted your perspective, share this episode with someone. It helps the show more than you know. I'm Abnul J. Farabi. This has been Flashpoints, The Wars That Shaped Us, a production of Light Knot Studios. You can find more of our narrative documentaries at lightknotstudios.com. Until next time, take care.